Hi, I'm Noel Valesno Jr. and I will be presenting my research proposal. But before I present my first three chapters, I'd like to share um, uh, some background on how I came up with my topic. I work at the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and one of its flagship advocacies is financial inclusion or inclusive finance. For those of you who have no idea or are not familiar with that term, financial inclusion basically means we're promoting access to uh, products and services to everyone, especially the marginalized sector. Um, that also includes empowering them, basically giving them the necessary information, making sure that they have the information that they need to make sound financial decisions. And of course, it also includes making sure that their rights as financial consumers are protected. So, based on that definition, it's quite a large topic. So it took me quite some time to narrow it down, but I came across an article about the government's crackdown on usurious agents like 5 that implements um, loans money. Basically, they're what we call as loan sharks. They loan money on a very exorbitant interest rate. So I wanted to look into that. Um, my topic, the narrowed down topic that I chose is informal lending. So my title is a case study on informal lending in Meycauayan City, Bulacan. This is very rough and raw title. Um, I'm still working on it. Later on, you'll find out why. I'm also entertaining the idea of the determinants of informal lending in Meycauayan City, Bulacan. But yeah, right now this is my working title. So let's get right to it. My introduction. So based on the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas 2015 baseline survey for financial inclusion, most Filipinos borrow from informal sources. About 61.9% of the respondents borrow from friends, relatives, and family, while 10% borrow from informal lenders. So these lenders, informal lenders, they charge you serious interest, and basically because they operate in an unregulated environment, they're mostly known to practice predatory lending practices, such as charging exorbitant fees on top of their exorbitant interest rates. They confiscate the ATM card of their borrowers just to make sure that they will be able to collect payment for their for the loan. So it's basically unfair, and their practices is actually borderline illegal already. So I wanted to look into that. Why? Because the problem is, regardless of the exorbitant fees and the predatory practices, it's obvious that there's a persistent demand for informal lending. So so yeah, it's disadvantageous to the borrowers, and yet they're still borrowing. So there's what we call a communication phenomenon. Okay, so the purpose of the study is to determine the reasons for the persistent demand for informal lending, and develop recommendations that would help stem uh, the demand for informal lenders. The problems that the research questions rather are What are the determinants of informal lending behavior of low to moderate income households? And is the borrowing behavior of low to moderate income households um, associated with their financial literacy level and their perception of a suitable credit facility? Okay. Next is the background, which would include the related literature available on the topic. So I already mentioned that we have the baseline survey for financial inclusion. So it mentions that the Filipino adults borrow money to pay for basically their basic needs, food, education, for emergency purposes, and the such. Um, that's actually consistent with another research that says rural Filipino folk borrow money to address income or health shocks. They borrow from friends or relatives. When we say income or health shocks, it's essentially an occurrence, an event, an unexpected event that basically in this case triggered the lack of funds to address their needs in terms of health and their basic needs like paying for bills, paying for food and such. So another phenomenon is that although there's a clear demand for credit in terms of addressing their income or health shocks. Um, uh, a little over half only wanted to engage the formal financial sector, which is quite surprising because the formal financial sector they're regulated and basically the regulators make sure that their interest rates are very low and that they practice fair lending practices. But it's noteworthy that a little over half of those respondents said that they'd want to engage the formal financial sector, and yet they mentioned that their priority in borrowing is the interest rate. So that's another phenomenon. One explanation that one theory that might explain that behavior is found on Dr. Ligmay's research on the bahala na attitude of Filipinos. Other researchers, especially foreign ones, have posited that the bahala na attitude of Filipinos is similar to the fatalistic attitude of Westerners. Well, Dr. Lagmay begs to differ, especially since those research, according to him, lack empirical data. According to Dr. Lagmay, the bahala na attitude actually is a positive and functional response to uncertainty. Basically, when faced with sudden needs such as an income or health shock, Filipinos would tend to accept their situation, and well, they're not planning to run from their problem, but they would want to deal with it expeditiously as possible, and they would want to deal with it with whatever means they think they have. So, if we correlate it with the phenomenon on their persistent demand for informal lenders, basically what I'm saying is it's possible that they borrow from informal lenders because they say essentially bahala na. You know, they need to address the problem quickly, and and what they think is their quickest and their probably their only solution is to borrow from informal lenders that could provide quick loan, quick disbursement without so many credit checks. But the problem is their interest rates are very high, and I'm not. That's what I wanted to find out, if they perceive it as okay, or do Filipinos perceive it that interest rate as acceptable. And yeah, is it just or is it just the bahala na attitude kicking in? Similar behaviors are also seen in the US. A lot of people don't have access to financial products. Some do, but nevertheless, they still borrow from more usurious agents. These households, they avail what they call as payday or cash advances to address short-term liquidity needs, or in technical terms, to smoothen temporal income shocks, which is similar to what's happening in the Philippines. Um, so, yeah. According to a research in UK, payday lending emerged in 1990s. It's basically a short-term loan facility, but similar to what we experience here in formal lending, they charge very high interest rates. Yeah. In the UK, according to them, the formal financial sector has left this market because the margins are low. But here in the Philippines, we have lending companies, we have microfinance NGOs, we have non-stock savings and loans association and cooperatives. We have those facilities available for low to moderate income households, but the problem is they don't avail it. Is it a matter of they're not aware of the facility, or they view it as too tedious to avail of their products and services? So those are the questions revolving on my mind when I'm trying to gather data about this topic. There. So, a research in Turkey found that a higher level of financial literacy basically would mean they're expected to demonstrate they're expected not to demonstrate excessive borrowing behavior, and to demonstrate informed credit use. So regarding my theoretical framework, I'm still trying to figure out if I should use phenomenology, since I'm dealing with communication phenomena. I'm also looking into the information-seeking behavior of the Filipinos, and also obviously I'm also looking into the cultural underpinnings of such behavior. So everything's very fluid as of the moment. But basically what my assumption is, this low to moderate income households, whenever they encounter income or health shocks, basically whenever they need money for short term, for example, to pay bills because they are short in funds, they want to pay bills, they need to pay for food, for their children's tuition fees, for health emergencies, what have you. Basically, what I'm saying is, if they have a high financial literacy level, they're aware of all the products. They have planned well for their financial well-being. They've established a good credit, because if you have a very high financial literacy level, you not only will you save. What I'm saying is, you'd also prepare for there's at least some level of preparation in cases of emergencies, or whenever you need funds. So if you have a high financial literacy level, you'd establish a line of credit, or at least you'd know how to avail of a credit line, and where to get it. So instead of going through informal financial, or basically informal lenders, which would basically lead, or probably lead the borrower to a debt trap, or financial crisis. A person with a high financial literacy level would go to the formal financial system, whereas if those low to moderate income household, if they have, my assumption is, if they have a low level of financial literacy level, they'd mostly go to the informal lenders. The bahala na attitude would kick in, basically. So that's my assumption. But right now, I'm still working on using the proper theoretical framework, so that I could frame, or I could make it turn this research in a more convincing communication research. So moving on from that, the methodology. Well, if I am to test the financial literacy level of the population in Meycauayan City, Bulacan, basically, as I've said, it's a case study. I'm limiting myself to households in Meycauayan City, Bulacan. Right now, I'll be using a cross-sectional survey. It's a self-administered questionnaire, but I would be employing enumerators to assist, especially those who have difficulty reading or understanding some of the questions in the questionnaire. The questionnaire has two parts. First is, I adopted statements from the created by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development to measure the financial literacy level of my respondents. And the part two would involve a series of statements designed to extract data on the borrowing behavior of the respondents. Okay. So my population and sample size. Well, we have over 52,000 households in Meycauayan City, but I am trying to narrow it down. Hopefully, there's data in our local government regarding low to moderate income households. I'll get the number, but if I base it to the 52,000 number, I'd be able to get a random sample size of 382. Yeah, I'm trying to limit it to low to moderate income households. So, data analysis, I'll be using cluster analysis to categorize the financial literacy level: high, fair, satisfactory, or low. I'm still working on how I will classify them. Chi-square test to extract differences with regards to demographic characteristics, age, gender, education, and stuff like that. I will be using univariate and bivariate analysis for to establish the relationship between the financial literacy level and their borrowing behavior. So I could get data regarding that. So that's my research proposal. I hope I gave you some ideas, and I was able to explain it to you properly. If you have questions or comments, or any ideas, suggestions, please comment on my video. I will try to respond as promptly as possible. Thank you.